Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking through some player props I like on Prizepicks for today's NBA slate on Friday, April the 18th. We have the final play-in games on Friday night, and then we'll have, the official playoffs start on Saturday. We got the play-in games, the final play-in games Friday night, so the winner of these games will determine who gets the 8th seed in the East and in the West. The Eastern Conference game we have is between the Heat and the Hawks, and then we have obviously winner of that game gets the 8th seed, and we'll play the Cavs in the first round. And then we have the Mavericks and the Grizzlies playing. Winner of that game gets the 8th seed in the West, and we'll play the Thunder in the first round. So, yeah, these are obviously must-win games for both these teams. You win these games, you're in the playoffs. You lose these games, your season's over. So, once again, we can kind of expect some tighter rotations here. We can expect guys to play pretty heavy minutes, at least like the main guys. And I got some player props I like. We're going to talk about two plays I like. We will give out a play from each game. So we'll talk about a play I like in the Heat and Hawks game, and then we'll talk about a play from the Mavericks-Grizzlies game. So before we talk through these plays, guys, as always, if you do enjoy these Prizepicks videos, and if they do help you out, make sure that you hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And also, if you guys are new to the channel and if you don't have an account over on Prizepicks, be sure to go sign up for Prizepicks and use that promo code NOAH. When you sign up for Prizepicks with my promo code and place your first $5 lineup, you're going to get $50 in promo funds instantly added to your account. So this is an easy way to build up your bankroll on Prizepicks. You don't have to put in a bunch of money. You can just deposit the minimum, and you'll still get those $50 worth of promo funds, again, once you play your first $5 lineup. So check out Prizepicks if you guys have not yet. And also, do want to shout out Sleeper because we do have a partnership with Sleeper as well. You can go sign up for Sleeper, make your first deposit, use promo code NOAH, and you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. So this is a promotion where it's pretty self-explanatory. Sleeper was going to match your first deposit up to $100. You put in 50, they'll give you an additional 50. You put in 75, they'll give you an additional 75. You put in 100, they'll give you an additional 100. So it's really just, you put in the amount that you want, you can get that deposit matched up to $100. Obviously, you don't have to deposit $100. You can deposit $10. You'll still get, a $10 bonus. It's basically just, that 100% match is up to $100. And again, you get access to that when you sign up for Sleeper with promo code NOAH. So go check out Sleeper. If you guys have not yet, they're a DFS pick'em app, very similar to Prizepicks, very simple and easy to use. And one thing I do like about Sleeper that is beneficial, they do a lot of discounts. They're always doing discounts throughout the week, whether it be discounts on props, discounts on sometimes they'll do like payout boosts. They'll give you like a higher payout boost on your entry. Sometimes they'll do payout boost on specific plays. So maybe if a play normally would have like a 1.7x multiplier, they might boost it up to like 2.1 or something. So you could get a higher payout for that specific pick. So there's a lot of stuff that Sleeper does throughout the week. Discounts, promotions, free squares, protected plays. Like they're doing all kind of stuff. So if you're into those discounts, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are, go check out Sleeper, and again, make sure to use that promo code NOAH, so that way you do get your first deposit matched up to $100. But let's go ahead and talk about some picks I like for Friday, guys. Now, I do want to recap our plays from Wednesday. There obviously were no NBA games on Thursday. Wednesday, we did give out two picks Wednesday, and unfortunately, once again, we went 0-2 on our two plays Wednesday. We had some really close calls, and we were just kind of on the wrong side of those. So the first prop we took was an over on Khalil Ware's first half fantasy score. And the reason that I like that first half play was because Khalil Ware's minutes have been getting cut down in the second half, and there's a risk his minutes get cut down in the second half, and that happened. His minutes did get cut down in the second half, but they also got cut down in the first half because he picked up 2 quick fouls in the first quarter, and I think he only played like 10 minutes in the first half. He had like 10 fantasy points in 10 minutes. I was expecting him to play about 13 to 14 minutes in the first half. If he gets those 3 to 4 additional minutes that I thought he would get, not picking up those fouls, he probably goes over his fantasy score line, but picked up some early fouls, had his minutes get cut down a little bit. And then the other prop that we took was on Anthony Davis's fantasy score over 51.5, and I think AD finished with like 51.2 or 51.3. So I mean, he lost. He went under by less than half a point, and he lost some minutes in that game for blowout. I think he subbed out early, he subbed out with like 2 minutes left. So super frustrating, to be on the wrong side of some close calls last slate. But we got 2 more plays here for Friday, guys. We'll see if we can bounce back, hit both these plays for Friday. So starting off with the first play I like for tonight for the Hawks and Heat game, We are going to take another fantasy score prop. I will talk about some plays I do like, as an alternative to fantasy score, because some people have been asking, if you can't take fantasy score, what's a prop that you would take instead? If I'm taking fantasy score prop, that's the prop that I like the most, so you should be playing that one. But I understand some people don't play on Prizepicks or don't play on DFS apps that offer fantasy score, so they want some alternatives, and we'll talk about some alternatives here in a second. But the prop I do like in the Heat and Hawks game is Karis LeVert for more than 22.5 fantasy score. So this was a prop that I gave out in my Patreon on, I think it was Tuesday when the Hawks played. It was Karis LeVert over fantasy score. That day his line was at 23, and he did go over that day. He didn't shoot the ball that well in that game against the Magic, in their playing game against the Magic. He only shot like 3 for 11 from the field. Yeah, 3 for 11, but he still had 23.7 fantasy score, had 7 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. LeVert, since he joined the Hawks, he's been a pretty productive player coming off the bench for them. He's basically been their sixth man. He's been the first guy off the bench. Last game played 25 minutes against Orlando and did lose about 5 minutes for blowout. He subbed out early with like 4 minutes left. I'm pretty sure all the Hawks main starters subbed out early with like 4 minutes left because the game, it was a blowout. They were down by like 20. Obviously, with this being a must-win game, you win this, you lose this game, your season's over. We can expect these guys to pretty much play down to the final like 2 minutes. I mean, you look at the games on Thursday or Wednesday night, the 8 or the 9 versus 10 seed, those games were must-win games. And I mean, starters were in the game, even when it was like a 20-point game with like a minute left. I mean, you still had some guys out there. Like, I think the Kings pulled their starters when they were down by like 22 with like 2 minutes left. So obviously teams are going to pretty much play these games down to the final few minutes, even if it is a blowout, which this game doesn't project to be a blowout. It's got a close spread. And we should get close to 30 minutes here from LeVert, even though he comes off the bench. I mean, if you just look at his minutes lately, even coming off the bench, he has still played fairly good minutes. So last game against the Magic, he obviously played 25 minutes, but again, lost about 5 minutes for blowout. Played 30 minutes against the Sixers. Against Brooklyn, only played 20 minutes, but that game was against Brooklyn was a blowout. They won that game by 24. But against Orlando, 30 minutes. Against Utah, 28 minutes. So he's been playing like 28 to 30 minutes lately in competitive games. And LeVert, since he's joined the Hawks, he's averaged over a fantasy point per minute. Like, he's been a productive player when he's been on the floor. He's basically been like their secondary scoring option. He's a guy that can run the offense, especially when Trae Young is off the floor. Obviously, Trae Young's going to play a lot of minutes. I mean, Trae Young probably plays like 40 minutes here. But in the minutes that Trae Young's off the floor, you should definitely see LeVert be really productive in those minutes, because that's when LeVert really gets to run the offense, gets to have the ball in his hands a lot. And the Heat, they have historically done a pretty good job at slowing down Trae Young. And I'm sure Eric Spoelstra's game plan coming into this game is going to be to just take away Trae Young as much as possible. So I think this is definitely a spot where LeVert will probably have to take on a bigger offensive role. Going to have the ball in his hands plenty, coming off the bench, operating with the second unit. And again, LeVert's been a productive player when he's gotten minutes. You look at the games this season with the Hawks, when he's played at least 25 minutes, he's over this line in 14 out of 17 games. So a large majority of his games with Atlanta, when he's played at least 25 minutes, he's gone over 22.5 fantasy score. And if you want to look at what he's done in this matchup against the Heat, for what it's worth, these teams have already played 3 times this season. In those 3 games, LeVert has had 24.8, 27.4, 29.5 fantasy score. He's played 28, 32, and 28 minutes in those games. So the minutes have been there for LeVert lately. I would expect him to be there in a must-win game here. 22.5 fantasy score to me just looks like a low line on LeVert. If this game is competitive and he plays like 28 to 30 minutes, even if he loses some minutes for blowout, which we're not projecting, but if he does, still think he can go over this fantasy score line. And for those of you that don't have fantasy score, and if you're looking for a prop that I like on LeVert besides fantasy score, I think my next favorite play on LeVert would be over 15.5. I think the line is 14.5. 14.5 points plus assist. I think that's probably my next favorite play on LeVert, not fantasy score. And if you don't have access to PA, I think 18.5 PRA is also solid. I do like the over on that as well. So I think these are some fine alternatives if instead of taking fantasy score, if you can't take fantasy score, but if you do have access to fantasy score and it's the same projection, same scoring system, I would definitely take that line first, because we saw last game, LeVert got 2 steals last game. He's a guy that can get steals, and obviously for fantasy score, you get 3 points for blocks and steals, so those really add up. I think the fantasy score looks a little bit better than these other props. But again, I know not everyone has access to Fantasy Score, so that's why I'm giving these alternatives for you. But that's the first prop I like for Friday. And then the other prop that I like in the next game, Mavericks and Grizzlies, we're going to look at a prop on Klay Thompson. And I like Klay Thompson for more than 13.5 points. So we saw Klay Thompson play really well in their play-in game against the Kings on Wednesday. In that game, he played, I think, 33 minutes. Lost it like a couple minutes for blowout. But Klay played really well, 33 minutes, had 23 points, got up 11 shot attempts, shot the ball really efficiently, 8 for 11 from the field, 5 for 7 from 3. But that was a pretty good matchup for Klay, just given how the Kings have allowed three-pointers this year, allowed catch-and-shoot shots. That's where Klay really gets his scoring from, and we all know that. I mean, when Klay has good scoring games, it's probably because he's knocking down a bunch of threes, because that's where Klay Thompson gets a lot of his scoring from, is behind the arc. And this is a matchup that sets up really well for that, because the Grizzlies have been a big three-point funnel this season, with Zach Edey trying to protect the paint and clogging up the paint. That just leaves shooters open. We saw the Warriors, I mean, they were shooting a bunch of threes in their game on Tuesday against Memphis. I don't know how many threes they made in that game, how many threes they got up, but they had plenty of open looks from three, and that's going to be the recipe here for Dallas. Dallas should have definitely open looks from three, and that's obviously a great recipe for Klay Thompson, one of the best three-point shooters in NBA history. You look at this season, Memphis, in terms of three-pointers allowed per game, they've allowed the fifth most three-pointers made per game, and then in terms of three-point attempts per game, Memphis has allowed the fifth most three-point attempts per game, and they've allowed, I believe, the ninth most three-pointers made per game. So this Memphis team gives up a lot of three-point attempts. They also give up a lot of catch-and-shoot threes. We know Klay Thompson's a big catch-and-shoot guy. He's not a guy that does a lot of dribbling. He's not a guy that does a lot of shot creation for himself. A lot of his scoring is from pull-up. Just he catches the ball, he shoots it. Like, that's Klay Thompson's game. Big catch-and-shoot guy. Memphis this season, in terms of catch-and-shoot threes allowed, giving up the fifth most catch-and-shoot threes. So it's a great matchup for Klay Thompson with how he likes to score. And he's had success in this matchup already this season. These teams have played 3 times this season. If we look at Klay's 3 games versus Memphis, one game he did only have 4 points, but he also only played 20 minutes in that game. However, his other 2 games against Memphis this season, 27 minutes, 29 minutes, 15 points, 15 points. And he didn't even shoot the ball that well in those games. He scored 15 points on 5 for 16 shooting and 3 for 8 from 3. And then he scored 15 points again on 6 for 19 shooting and 3 for 9 from 3. But what I really like to see is that Klay was getting up a lot of shots against Memphis. 16 shot attempts, 19 shot attempts. And it makes sense just with how Memphis gives up catch-and-shoot shots and how they've been a big catch-and-shoot funnel this season. So really like this matchup a lot for Klay Thompson. Played really well in their playing game on Wednesday. Played pretty good minutes. I would think that continues here in a must-win game Friday night against Memphis. So if we're going to get 30-plus minutes from Klay like we got Wednesday, I think we got a pretty good chance at 14 points, especially in a really good matchup here for Klay with how he likes to score facing a big catch-and-shoot funnel. So we're going to roll with these 2 plays, guys, for Friday night for the 2 final play-in games. We talked about it. Winner of these games gets the 8 seed in the East and the West. So these are obviously big games, must-win games for both these teams. We can expect some big minutes, some tight rotations. These are 2 props I'm liking from the 2 games on Friday night. I will share more Prizepicks plays for these games on Patreon. Once I'm able to look at more projections, kind of look at stuff around the industry, do some cross-referencing, which is what I like to do, especially for like fantasy score lines. I like to compare fantasy score lines on Prizepicks to kind of some projections around the industry, and usually those projections aren't available until the day of. So I do wait for those to get added. I'll do some more Prizepicks plays over on Patreon Friday, but looking at the board the night before, recording this video on Thursday, these are some early plays I do like looking at the slate the day before. But yeah, guys, as always, appreciate you watching these Prizepicks videos. Appreciate your support. Make sure that you guys hit that like button down below. If you did enjoy this video, hit that subscribe button as well. And if you guys don't have an account over on Prizepicks, be sure to go sign up for Prizepicks and use that promo code NOAH. When you sign up, when you play your first $5 lineup on Prizepicks, you're going to get $50 in promo funds instantly added to your account when you use that code NOAH. So check out Prizepicks if you have not yet. But good luck tonight, guys. Let's win some money on the slate. Appreciate your support as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.